Hello and welcome to the Crafting Shares. I'm Ruth from Beltane Gifts and today we're going to be making one of these. And this is a needle felted bat, and he's designed around a dome, as quite a few of my little creatures are, just because it makes them nice and simple and quick to make. For today's project we're going to need some scissors, some 3mm round black plastic beads, a needle and thread, a fine sewing needle in a handle, some finger protectors, something to felt on. I'm using a cloth bag filled with rice, some black acrylic pre-made felt, a brown felted dome. This is one that I've made out of carded fibre, some matching carded fibre in the same colour as your dome. If you don't know how to make a dome, there's a link just down in the descriptions to a video I've made on how to make them. We also need some lighter brown. Again, this is carded. Got some black, this is roving. If you've got carded, use carded, but I've only got roving at the minute. I've also got some white and some pink carded fibre as well. Now, all the fibre I'm using is Corriedale, but you can use whatever you've got handy. Now, to start off, what we're going to do is cut out our wings and ears. So with your black acrylic felt, just fold it so that you've got a section that's, I'd say, it's about 3 centimetres, so 6 centimetres long if you can. Fold it in half. What we're going to do is start off with just a diagonal cut, cutting off the corner where it's folded, which should give you a large triangle. Keep this, we're going to be using it in a minute. We're then going to do another diagonal cut, just going until we reach the edge there of the felt. So where we folded it, let's just cut so that we've got a nice inverted V. Now we're going to cut about 0.5 centimetre down from the fold, and we're just going to do a little curve just down from the fold, just down, and then from where that curve finishes we're just going to cut up and do another little curve, trying to end about the same place again. So we've just got, if you can see that there, just a little curve ending in a point. We're going to do another 2 of those until we get to the edge of the felt. And what we want to do is when we finish our last little curve, we want it to end just as a point. So if you open this up, that should give us our little wings there. If you've got any fluffiness like I do, these aren't great scissors. Just a little trim just to get rid of any messy bits and just smarten it up. And then we're going to take our little triangle that came off in our first cut, and we're just going to cut it in half, which should give us 2 equalish triangles, and these are going to be our ears. Don't worry if they're not identical, it's all part of the character for our little bat there. So let's pop these out the way. Okay, so we're going to start off by attaching our wings and our ears to our dome. Now the dome has been felted until it's reasonably solid. If I squeeze it, my fingers can't meet. You need it to be quite solid so that when we add things we don't end up with these little indents and things from where it's a bit too soft. I mean, to be honest, I think this could probably do with a little bit more of a stab. Okay, let's stop and start. Okay, so we're going to start off by attaching our wings and our ears to our dome. Now my dome is reasonably firm, and you want your dome to be quite firm when you're adding things to it, just because otherwise you're going to end up with big indentations where you're stabbing. So if your dome isn't quite symmetrical, or just give it a bit of a roll between your palms just to even it out a little bit. And then what we're going to do is start off by adding our wings, and we're going to do that by putting them about halfway up, to be honest, on our dome. I'm going to lay them on, and I'm going to take a piece of the matching fibre, and I'm just going to lay it over the centre in the middle there, and just going to give it a couple of stabs just to hold it in place. What we're going to do is we're just going to stab it to the top and the bottom, not hitting the black felt wings, just tacking it into the dome above and below them. Then once they're in place, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stab from either side, because I don't want this band of fibre to be too wide. So I'm going to stab from one side first with my needle pointing inwards towards the centre. So if you imagine there's a line down here, my needle's going to be stabbing towards that, and I'm stabbing at about a 45-degree angle just catching that fibre and stabbing towards the middle there, and then I can just go over the top a little bit just to flatten it a bit. I'm going to rotate it just because it's easier for me to stab from right to left, and just going to do exactly the same again. Once that's done, I'm just going to stab over the top, lots of little jabs close together, because what we want to do is smooth this fibre out so that you can't see where we've added it. Now once you've added the fibre there and it's smoothed in a bit, what we can do is just go over the line just where the brown and black meet and just do some nice deep jabs there, and what you'll find is as it pulls in, the wing moves upwards, and that's what we want. It just helps the wings to stand out a little bit. There we go. Now once the wings are on, it's time to add our little ears, and they're going to go just at the top of the head here. So you'll see that the wings are actually a little bit of an angle, and what I like is to have the longer edge just pointing towards the back, but you can do it however you want it. What I'm going to do is just lay it on the side, grab a little bit more of our brown fibre, and I'm just going to lay it over the top and then stab just along. You'll probably find that you need quite a fine needle for this, just so that you can get it to go through the felt and the fibre. If you find that you are having trouble in your needle sticking, just swap down to a finer one. There we go. I'm just doing deep stabs just backwards and forwards along the edge where the fibre and the felt meet, and then once that's in place, I'm just going to smooth out the rest of the fibre just so that you can't tell that we've added it. Go. Once that's done, we're just going to do the same on the other side. There we go, our ears are in place, so it's time to add our nose. So I've got my black roving here. Now I'm just going to pull off a section, and what I'm going to do is just make it really messy. And the reason I'm doing this is just because you get a smoother finish if you mess your fibre up first if you're using roving. If you're using carded fibre, you can skip this step. Once it's all messed up, what we can do is just roll it into a little bit of a ball. This just starts the felting process and gets rid of any of those flyaway fibres there. We're going to choose a spot just in the middle of the face where we want our nose to be. I'm going to lay it in place. A couple of stabs straight down in the middle, quite deep. What we want to do is just attach it so it's not going to go anywhere whilst we shape it. And for the nose, instead of doing a circle, what I want to do is kind of an elongated semicircle. So I'm going to outline it first. So I'm going to go straight up at the sides, round at the top, straight down the other side, and then kind of straight across the bottom, maybe a little bit of a curve at the bottom. Okay, so once you've got your outline, just go over it a couple of times just to start tucking all those fibres in. And what you'll find is that the wadger fibre on top will start to kind of be sucked in to the shape you want. Now, because we are going to be adding some other colours on top of this, we want it to be quite solid. So normally I would just keep stabbing around the outside until we got the shape we wanted and leave it at that. But for this, we just need to start felting just over the surface, just lightly, just to start bringing it in. And we're going to start curving it and creating kind of a dome shape on top and making sure it's nice and firm. Now, because I want it rounded, what I'm doing is I'm using the needle from different angles and just creating a nice curve around the edges. So if you look at the shape now, we've got that little bit of a curve, and what I'm doing is I'm just imagining that there's a point just in the center of this, and it goes all the way through, and my needle needs to be pointing towards that point. So if you see that I'm changing my angles as I move around, and by changing those angles, it just helps that curve. And there we go. So that's our nose. Now it's at this point you can decide whether or not you wanted to add cheeks. If you do want to add some, then you just need to take some fibre, which is the same colour brown as your dome, and just need just a small section. But what you need to do is split it in half so that you've got about equal amounts, one for each cheek. It's so much easier to split it now than it is to add one and then trying to figure out how much fibre you used and try and get an equal amount for the other cheek. So I've split mine ready. This is carded fibre, so I don't really need to do much with it. I'm just going to place it right next to the nose, a couple of little stabs just to hold it in place, and then I'm going to work round the outside just in a circle. If you wanted big cheeks, you can do big circles, small cheeks, small circles, it's up to you. I'm going to go, I suppose, medium sized, and what I'm doing is I'm just stabbing the fibre inwards, 45-degree angle again, just in the shape of a circle. Okay, so what you want to do is keep working round and round in a circle. You can go a little bit higher each time, just catch some of that fibre that's further up and just tuck it down. And what should happen is as you catch the fibre, it'll start to draw tighter and just form that curved round shape. Once it starts to form, you can just stab over the whole thing then, just little jabs. Again, changing your needle needle angle as you go, just to keep that rounded shape, and just keep going until it's nice and firm and looks like it's part of the dome. Now I want to move my cheek a little bit closer to the nose, so what I'm doing is I'm just stabbing from the side, the opposite side to the nose, and just pushing the fibre just inwards towards it a little bit. Now I'm doing a few extra stabs just where the nose and the cheek meet, because this is where I'm going to be putting the eye, one eye of the eyes. So I just want that to be well defined so that they'll really show up. Once you're happy with your cheek, it's time to do the other one. So I'm going to go and do that, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so the cheeks have been added now, so it's time to add the little belly, and for that I'm using some of this paler brown coloured fibre. This is carded again, so I don't need to do much with it. I'm just going to pull a bit off. I can always add more, but it's hard to take it away once it's added. And what I'm going to do is just lay it over the stomach area, and I'm just going to stab round just in an oval, and I'm just using some quite deep stabs, but they're not that close together. It's kind of tacking it in place. Okay, and I'm just dragging the point of the needle just over the top, just trying to catch some of those loose fibres and then stabbing them in. Go around a couple of times just until you're sure that the edge is fully outlined, and then once that's done, what we can do is just stab straight down, little jabs close together, just to flatten it all out. And the reason we do it this way is that if you were to start stabbing just in the centre here, you wouldn't have much control, whereas if you outline it first, when you stab, all the fibres get sucked in and it just holds the shape a lot better, so you get a lot more control doing it this way. And just keep going over, just stabbing over the whole thing until it's nice and smooth. Go. Now what I'm going to do is just work my way around the outside with my needle pointing in towards the lighter brown shade, and just catching those edges and just tucking any loose fibres in. And then I'm just going to stab over the whole surface, again little jabs close together, but this time I'm using quite a low angle, if you can see the needle there. And what this does is it just tucks the fibres in sideways, and the holes are hidden, just because I don't want there to be lots of little holes all over the belly. There we go. Now you can spend a bit more time on this than I am if you want and just get a really nice finish, but I just want to show you how it's done. Okay, so we've added the belly now, and he's ready to add some detail just to the nose and mouth. So I'm going to start off with my pink carded fibre, and we only need a really small piece for this. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add the nose, and to do that, just going to, I think even less than that. There we go. I'm going to roll it into a little bit of a ball. I'm going to lay it just in the top half of the nose area, and I'm going to stab just to create a little line, so little jabs close together. Then I'm just going to stab upwards from one side. Probably could have done with even less fibre for this. And then I'm going to stab up from the other side too, and I'm just pointing inwards slightly. What we want to do is just anchor these top parts here, make sure that they're nice and firmly attached. Because what I want to do next is just with my needle, just catch this bulk of fibre and bring it down just to create a V. So I'm not sure if you can see that they're starting to form. And just to make it just even more noticeable, I'm just going to stab in a little bit of an angle there, and then from the other sides again, just really accentuating that point at the top. Now once you've got the outside edges where you want them, what we're going to do is just stab straight down, just over the whole thing, just to flatten it a little bit. Now you might find that this causes your fibre to spread a little bit, in which case just working from the outside edge, just inwards, just stab along those edges, just redefine them. And if you've got just little fluffy pieces there, I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but I've just got a few fluffy, just loose fibres. Use the whole length of your needle, just put it along the side of the line, and just little jabs backwards and forwards, almost that soaring motion. And what this should do is just use the side of the needle with those little notches just to catch those loose fibres and tuck them in. And just spend as much time as you need on this just to get it how you want it, because this is going to be a very prominent part of your bat, so it has to look right for you. Okay, I think that's going to do for me for now. So what I want to do now is add a couple of little teeth, and for that I'm using just some carded white fibre, and you really do only need a tiny bit for this. What I'm going to do is just get two little pieces of it about the same size. Go. Then I'm just going to roll them between finger and thumb just until I've got a little ball. I'm going to place it just beneath the nose we've added, and for this we're going to do 3 stabs, so doing one in one corner, then we're just going to stab in the other corner, and then one last one just at the point And what we're doing is we're going to create a little triangle. So by going backwards and forwards between these 3 points, what should happen is the fibres will start to just get pulled in and tighten, and it just makes it so much easier for you to create a little triangle. So what you can do, just loosely with your needle, just catch any little fibres there, pull them down where you're stabbing, and then we'll just work around the outside edge, just stabbing inwards. And again, you can just use the outside edge of your needle just to spartan up those lines. Once that's done, a few little stabs over the top, and we've got one little fang. So I'm just going to go and do the other one. Okay, so there's our little nose and fangs in place. So the last thing we need to do is to add our eyes. So I've got my little beads here and my needle and thread. Now it's the same technique as we use for adding eyes for any of our others. What we're going to do is we're just going to sew in from the side here, come into the back of the head, keep pulling until the thread goes inside, do a couple of little stitches just to make sure that the cotton's nice and firmly attached. Then we're going to sew through, and I'm going to come out just between where the cheek and the nose meet. Grab one of the beads and put it onto the needle. Do a little stitch so I can go through the bead twice. Sew back to the back of the head. Now try and get your stitches as close together as you can with this, just because it's going to be easier to hide later. And then we're just going to give it a little pull, just so that it's slightly indented there. Pop your little finger, or your index finger, just on top of the bead, just to hold it in place. A couple of little stitches again. Then back through to the other side and do the same again. Okay, just check that they're about even. Hold the bead in place again, a couple of little stitches, and then just sew out of the side. With the scissors, just going to pull the cotton tight, press the scissors against the side of the body and just snip, and that hides where they've come out. Last thing to do, just grab a piece of the brown fibre that's the same colour as your dome, place it over the top, stab around the outside edge first, just in a bit of a circle, just so that you've fully covered the section where the stitches are. Once that's done, just stab over the whole thing and just blend it in with the dome. So lots of little stabs. We don't want to go too deep with this, we don't want to change the shape, just want to make it nice and smooth so that you can't tell what we've done. There you go. There is our little bat. Now if you wanted to, you could add a cord to the top so that you could hang him on things. You could add a key ring to him if you wanted to, or just pop him on a little display. I do like bats. Be sure to click on that subscribe button and the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Next time we're going to be making one of these. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.